Well, let's speak to the aviation security expert Jim Termini, who's also a former Airbus A321 pilot. It's the same type of plane that crashed in Egypt. He's also a specialist for the aviation security training for airport staff, and he joins us from our studio in Sheffield. Sharm el-Sheikh International Airport, it is in a difficult area, but it's within a ring of steel. How difficult do you think it would be to smuggle some sort of device on a plane bound for the UK or anywhere else internationally?
There's various routes where a device could be smuggled onto an aircraft. There's either the direct route of an individual placing a device on something or inside something that's then placed directly inside the aeroplane at some point or another. Or there's the indirect threat where somebody's told to plant a bomb, possibly under duress. It was used to great effect by the IRA in the 80s and 90s. Put the bomb in this suitcase, otherwise we've got your family. So it depends whether we're talking about direct or indirect placement of the device.
And also explosives now becoming increasingly difficult to trace. One thinks, for example, of the shoe bomber, and that's also how small these particular devices can be.
Well, actually, detection of explosives has come on hugely in the last 10 years or so. There are devices now that many people see at airports that operate on a forensic level where the swabs that are taken will detect molecular levels of explosives. So the detection of explosives has moved on, and we can do that both through trace detection and also through imaging techniques as well, such as on X-ray.
OK, but explosives do still get smuggled on. So how is that still possible? So the forensics aren't quite as good as they need to be?
Well, we say that explosives are smuggled on. We've made the assumption, and it is still an assumption at this point, that an explosive device was placed inside this aircraft.
I'm not making an assumption on this case. I'm just talking about, though, how in previous cases explosives do manage to get on board.
Of course they do. And we tend to react to the placement of explosives. So the device that was placed on Pan Am 103 from Lockerbie, for example, led to a string of enhancements in security to detect that type of device. The underpants device of Abdullah Muttalib, that was a particularly clever method of smuggling explosives on board that the industry and the aviation security sector has had to react to very quickly.
When you think about the hundreds, thousands of people employed at international airports, and in particular the geographical location of Sharm el-Sheikh, I mean, that raises real headaches, doesn't it, for airport authorities and national governments, even if Sharm el-Sheikh, as we know, is actually a resort within a sort of ring of steel in a troubled, volatile area.
It's very difficult to protect aviation regardless of the location, given there's so many supply chains and routes on board an aircraft. If you think of just the supply chain that supports air cargo, in-flight supplies, which of course includes not just the catering, but in-flight retail and anything else that's used on board an aircraft, as well as, of course, as the passengers and the crew themselves. It's a very long and can be convoluted supply chain that has to be defended from some point or another.
You are a former pilot, you're now an aviation security specialist. What more, in your view, could be done at international airports to improve safety, or would it make the business of travelling and flying almost unbearable in terms of the sort of security checks you'd need?
Yeah, the ever-growing conflict for us in the aviation security sector is that we could stop everything from getting on board an aeroplane, and that's simply by grounding them. But that, of course, is not the point of aviation. The point of aviation is to get passengers from A to B as safely and as securely as possible. Now, we can be as imaginative as the terrorist, but of course it's very difficult to justify the cost of defending against a threat that hasn't actually occurred. And that's the ever-growing conundrum that we face.
All right, Jim Termini, thank you very much indeed for joining us on Global today.